So when you hear the word economics, what pops into your head? Is it stock charts, government budgets? Well, yeah, it's all that stuff, but here's the thing. Economics isn't just one single field. It's actually more like a toolkit with a bunch of different lenses for seeing the world. And today, we're going to learn how to use them.
You've probably heard these terms thrown around, right? Political economy, microeconomics, econometrics. But what's actually the difference between them? And, why should you even care? That is the puzzle we are going to solve together right now.
And really, the best way to get a handle on all this is to think of them as three different lenses. They're all pointed at the exact same world, but each one brings a totally different part of it into focus.
All right, let's kick things off with the original lens, the OG of economics, if you will, political economy. This is our wide-angle view.
So what exactly is it? Well, at its heart, political economy is the study of how politics, laws, and governments basically build the entire economic world we live in. We're talking everything from the farmer's market down the street to the global economy. The key idea here is you can't separate politics from economics. They're totally intertwined.
This lens doesn't really get bogged down in the little details. Nope, it's all about asking the big, fundamental questions, like how should an entire nation manage its wealth? Or how do power and government policies end up deciding who gets rich and who gets left behind? It's about the very rules of the game itself.
And check this out. The history here is actually fascinating. Way back in the 18th century, guys like Adam Smith, you've heard of him, they didn't call themselves economists. They studied political economy. But then, around 1890, a new, much more mathematical way of thinking started to get popular, and by the early 1900s, the term economics pretty much took over. Today, political economy is making a comeback, but it refers to this very specific, big-picture approach.
This comparison just nails it. Political economy is all about the forest, the whole system, the laws, the big institutions. But to really understand the forest, you also have to understand the individual trees. And that is where our next lens comes into play.
So let's grab our magnifying glass and zoom right in with our second lens, microeconomics.
Okay, the definition here is really important. Microeconomics is all about the behavior of individuals, like you and me, and companies, and how we make decisions about using stuff that's limited, our scarce resources. It really all boils down to those three things: individuals, firms, and scarce resources. That's the whole game.
You could really call it the science of decision-making. It's about how you decide what to buy with the money you have, and how a company decides what to make and what to charge for it. It's all about choices and trade-offs. The classic models kind of assume we're all perfectly rational about it, which, let's be honest, isn't always how we roll in real life. And you absolutely cannot talk about microeconomics without understanding one of its biggest ideas: opportunity cost. It sounds fancy, but it's super simple. It's just the value of whatever you didn't choose. It's the next best thing you had to give up to get what you wanted. This example just makes it so easy to get. If you're offered waffles or chocolate, and you pick the chocolate, the opportunity cost isn't the waffles themselves, it's the enjoyment you gave up by not eating those waffles. That's it. Every single choice you make, big or small, has an opportunity cost.
Okay, so we've seen the forest and we've looked at the trees. Now let's check out the toolkit economists use to actually analyze it all. This is econometrics, our high-powered microscope. Now I know this sounds complicated, but stick with me. The idea is actually pretty straightforward. Economics is basically where economists take all their theories and test them against real-world data using statistics. It's how they figure out if their ideas about how the world works are actually, true.
And I love this quote because it just cuts through all the jargon. Econometrics allows economists to sift through mountains of data to extract simple relationships. It's about finding the hidden pattern, the signal in all the noise. So, what does this look like in practice? Well, a classic example is something called Okun's Law. It's a theory that explores the connection between how much a country's economy is growing, its GDP growth, and its unemployment rate. So first, an economist turns that theory into a mathematical model. It might look a little intimidating, like this equation here, but don't worry about the math. Just focus on what it's saying. This model is a testable guess. It predicts that for every 1% the economy grows, the unemployment rate should fall by about 1.77%. It's not perfect, of course. It's just a model of a really messy reality. And then comes the moment of truth. They test that model against real-world data, which you can see here in this scatter plot. Every single one of those dots is a real data point from a real year. The econometrician's job is to draw a line.
That's our model. Through those dots and see how well it fits. This is where theory gets a reality check.
So we have our wide-angle lens, our magnifying glass, and our high-powered microscope. The real magic happens when we start putting them all together.
And this is absolutely crucial. These lenses aren't meant to be used on their own. The real skill of a modern economist is knowing which lens to grab at which time and how to combine all three to get a complete, accurate picture of what's going on.
Let's make this super concrete. Imagine we're analyzing a carbon tax. Okay, first up, the political economy lens. You'd ask, who wants this tax? Which powerful industries are going to fight it? What are the political roadblocks? Then you switch to the microeconomics lens. You'd analyze, how will everyday people change their driving habits? How will companies change the way they make stuff? And finally, you grab the econometrics lens. You dig into the data from other countries that already have carbon taxes to predict what would probably happen to emissions and prices right here. See, each lens gives you a vital piece of the puzzle.
And that's really the whole point. Once you understand these lenses, it's like you have a superpower. You can decode the news, you can actually follow what's going on in big policy debates, and you can get a much, much clearer view of how the world actually works.
So I'll leave you with this question to chew on. When we're trying to solve our biggest problems, we're talking climate change, inequality, you name it, which lens do you think is the most important one to look through? The political, the personal, or the statistical? It's something worth thinking about.